So, I'm Dorothea Oldham. I'm a real estate broker here in Oregon, and I'm recording my adventures in real estate. And part 1 was how I got from Germany to the United States. Number 2 was California. Number 3 was moving to Oregon. And now I will tell you about Flagstaff, Arizona. I went from Oregon. Before I left Oregon, I made my property manager license, and at that time you had to take a test with a pencil on a piece of paper. But I passed it with flying colors, nevertheless, and I had a little oceanfront vacation business there. So then I went to Flagstaff. First I just flew over to test the waters, and I found a little tiny paper clipped to a tree. It says house for rent. So I called the number and I said, yeah, we will rent for you, send us the money. So I sent him the rent ahead of time. I went back home and I packed up a U-Haul. I packed up the kids and the dog. Actually, we forgot the dog. We left him on the couch in the house until we were sitting there. I said, something is missing, the dog. So we went back in the house, got the dog. Beautiful Dalmatian we had at that time. So then I took the kids and the U-Haul. First I wanted to show them on the way over to Flagstaff from Oregon, San Francisco. I thought it would be a great idea to drive with a U-Haul up and down the hills in San Francisco so they get to see that. Was not such a good idea as it turned out. Having a big, gigantic vehicle driving those narrow streets. Nevertheless, I get to see San Francisco. So then we went on over to Flagstaff. To that rental, I just kind of rented more or less sight unseen. And I pulled up with that big rig, and it was just me and 2 little girls. And lo and behold, the neighbors all came over and they unloaded our truck in no time flat. I was so impressed. I said, wow, what a deal. So, and there they were. And so I will tell you the whole story about Flagstaff. Here it goes. So here we are in Arizona. Down there is Phoenix, and then you drive up the hill more or less. Flagstaff is 7,000 feet elevation, and to the north is the largest Indian reservation or Native American reservation in the United States. And up here is the Grand Canyon. There's Williams, and from there you can take a train up to the Grand Canyon. And here is Sedona, where I started out. So I thought Flagstaff would be a great idea. And there's a tree with that little note, house for rent. Most of Flagstaff's surroundings look just like it. It's a dry pine trees every which way. And so our house was here behind the trees somewhere. And there were lots of elk. Elk walk right through town, through the golf course. It's pretty amazing. But at 7,000 elevation, we had a little stair in our rental. Just going up and down the stairs, I had to go sit in the chair for 5 minutes and catch my breath. So your blood needs to get adjusted to the elevation before you can climb up anything, I found. Flagstaff has this great little coffee shop. It's a European coffee shop, and I absolutely loved it. So we had coffee in there and waffles one day, and then from there I went across the street. There was a little real estate business there, and it was Linton Real Estate. They have now moved, so there's somebody else in there. But when Linton was in there, it was all full of flowers, and Susan Linton took great care to have lots of flowers all around her little house. That was so cute. Well, she's not there anymore, but that was right downtown. And here's Downtown Flagstaff. So here's Macy's. You have to go to when you are there. And Linton Real Estate moved further down the line and some other location. That is what that little house looks like now, and I think it has a little tower up front. Yeah, there's a little tower. And here is Flagstaff. Great, great town if you ever have a chance to get there. So when I first got there, I had to work somewhere, I thought. So I volunteered in an art gallery. I thought it was kind of fun. And so I bought and sold some art there in the art gallery. But I thought, well, I need a real job. So I studied for my real estate license. And while I was doing that, I was also looking at some properties. So I went to that little Linton Real Estate. And here is Susan Linton. What a nice lady. My goodness, she was just absolutely wonderful. And I had asked her if I make my real estate license, if she will hire me. And she said, sure, I will. So I worked for her for 2 years after I made my license. But in the meantime, she shuttled me all over the place to look at properties. So it was just unbelievable. She showed me a house where you have to haul water. I said, why in the world would she even show that to me? But that was quite common there in Flagstaff. You had to go to a faucet somewhere and bring your water or have it delivered and put it into a cistern because there was no well. This is the desert. Tja. And I finally wound up buying this house. She called me one day and said, I found the perfect house for you, and she did. And I was on Skyline, and across the way was a national forest where we could walk every day with a dog, and that was just wonderful. And I lived there for 2 years. So now you're going to hear my real estate adventures as a freshly baked realtor. So my first day at Linton, she put me right on the front desk. And in walks a couple, says, oh, how long have you been in real estate? I told him 15 minutes. Yeah, so anyway, she showed me Flagstaff and surroundings. She had a Volvo, it was really tough, little car. And she drove me all over the countryside. And I was a city slicker, and I was not used to dirt roads. It was a bumpy stuff. Up and down she went, and all through the forest. You go through the forest, and all of a sudden there's a little enclave with a bunch of houses. And then again there's nothing for 20 minutes. And then you find another little enclave with a bunch of houses. So that is really strange. Why would they do that? Well, later it occurred to me, these people need water and sewers, so they need to get all together and bring in the water and maybe have a community well. And the electric, that's not cheap to bring in, so the electric has to be brought in and distributed, and so everybody's kind of huddling together. And but then also some people don't have electric, and then they run. Do you think you're out in the country in the middle of nowhere, and then at night all heck breaks loose with all the generators being fired up? So that's another story. Unless you have solar, that is of course silent, but that might not work all night, even if the sun shines all day. Depends on your battery power. So anyway, she drove me all over the place, and I got to know a few things, and then I had to get an open house. She gave me an open house to babysit. So I when I went home, I found in the dumpster a gigantic yellow bird, like that big sesame bird, big bird. So that's cool. Why would somebody throw that away? So I put it in the trunk of my car. And then I went to the open house. I put up the open house sign right on the highway with a big arrow and put that big bird next to it. And then I sat there in the middle of the forest in a gigantic house. And so I waited there a couple, 3 hours, and then nobody came. And then finally a couple came. So I showed him the house, and so we talked about, getting walls knocked out and put some more light in there or to get some more room. It also had tunnels, light tunnels came in from the roof, and then you had daylight there in those dark rooms there in the forest. What I found really funny was when I got out of that dark house and back on the highway collecting my open house sign, the big yellow bird had disappeared. Somebody stole it. I fished it out of a dumpster and somebody stole it. I thought it was just hilarious. At any rate, they told me, well, actually, they were looking for a piece of land. So I said, well, no problem. So I pulled all of that from what I could find from the MLS. I had to go back to the office to a real computer because at that time laptops were not that popular. Actually, I had bought a laptop there in 1999 and it lasted 6 months and then it never woke up again. So they were not that good at any rate. So then I drove that couple out in the middle of nowhere and they bought, we walked the properties and they bought 40 acres from me and I got a large commission for that. I said, wow. And my broker said, geez, I had to work 10 years before I got a commission like that. So yeah, that was really fun. And that immediately prompted me to get a different car because I had a car that was pussyfooted. It didn't have four-wheel drive. And if it saw a puddle, it was hesitant to go through there, leave alone on a dirt road. So I bought a little snazzy little red Kia, I think it was, four-wheel drive. So that was my first adventure there. That was great. Got me a good start, any rate. So then my little red car had stick shift. And so we went way out in the boonies with my daughter. And I taught her how to drive. It was like riding a bucking bronco when she rode that. Coming from Germany, all they have there is stick shift when I grew up. And even when I went back later with the kids, all you could rent was something with stick shift because in Germany it's very important to rev up the motor at the red light and then it turns yellow. It doesn't go immediately green. No, it turns yellow. And so you can rev up your car and put it in gear and as soon as it turns green, you're off like a shot. And that's very important to do that in Germany, otherwise you're being looked down on. So yeah, anyway, we were driving the stick shift and she was working hard on that. It was a little subdivision out in the middle of nowhere, but along the highway. And so I thought, well, maybe I should just buy a piece of property in here and then advertise the daylight out of it and sell it again. So I did, because I didn't have any listings. I got to get started somehow. So I bought the little lot and advertised it, and sure enough, I sold it. And so I got my feet in the water over there, but my broker was really helpful. She always helped me with everything, and I had floor time and people were walking in, especially having Macy's across the street really helped. People were just wandering in and just, well, yes. And one couple came They were looking for years for the right house, literally for years, and I found it for them. The perfect house. It was beautiful, big brown house in the forest, and they just loved it. But then they bought it, and then they ripped out the hardwood floors and put in tiles. Oh, wow. Why on earth would you rip out a hardwood floor? But yeah, that's what they wanted. And of course, when it gets really hot, the tiled floor really cool off the place. Like here in our dogs, we have our den has tiled floor and the bathrooms. So when it gets really hot, they just absolutely love to lay on that cold tile. That makes sense. I was really trying hard. At one time, one couple wanted to move in, but they didn't have any place to store their furniture until the closing, so I had them put it all into my garage. Another time, a young couple came and they didn't have the down payment for a while, so I just said, well, here, $25,000, this is your down payment, now go for it. And the loan officer says, oh my goodness, what are you doing? What if they don't get the loan? Well, here it goes. But it all worked out fine. And that time we had a program that was called Jeremiah. You could buy something without any down payment, so that was helpful. The interest rates were quite reasonable, about 7%. And now they're whining about 7%. But at that time, 7% was really good. And then one couple wanted to buy northeast of Flagstaff. There's Donny Park. And there's a lot bigger, 5 acres, 10 acres, something like that. And then there are little farms out there and kind of a mishmash. There is no homeowners association. Pretty much everybody does what they want to do. And this one couple was looking at the Yurt, and they wanted to buy a yurt. That was kind of cool. It was built round and with clay. It was pretty cool. But then nearby was a trailer. I said, well, be aware there's a trailer in the neighborhood. He said, well, so what? At least those people have a trailer. I thought that was kind of cool, because I was always kind of tiptoeing around when somebody was living in a trailer, because in Germany there's no such thing. I guess it gets too cold there. But so I didn't want to get close to any trailers. I was afraid of them. And they said, no, that's great. They have a trailer. That's a good thing. They got a roof over their head. Okay, so be it. So even though I really liked in Flagstaff and actually was quite successful, I really missed the ocean in Oregon. And every time I looked at a picture with water, tears came to my eyes. Says, I gotta get back to where is more water than Flagstaff. It's so dry and so I was looking at a map, where to go, and I found a new husband, and he suggested Montana. Montana, where is that? I didn't even know where it was. Way up north. So we hopped in my little car, and we drove north. And first through Colorado, and that's quite nice, and then Wyoming, endless rolling hills of grass. I mean, on it went. Oh my goodness, this is terrible. Let me out of here. I need a forest. So after many hours, we finally came to Montana. And we snuck in through the bottom of it from the south. And we came around the corner, and there was this beautiful little town nestled in a valley up against the highest mountains in Montana. And it was full of trees and looked beautiful. And right downtown, my car broke down. It just that means we have to stay. This is good. So we went to the Montana going to be in part 5. I'll tell you all about it when we come back for part 5 of this little series of real estate adventures. I like to invite you to visit my website and read all these books here for free for the price of your email address. That will float to the bottom of my hard drive. And rogueriverrealestate.com. Come and see me, give me a call, send me a text, and I hope to see you here. Thanks.